What's going on, everybody? It's Korr here, and today, welcome to Korr Storytime episode 3. So yeah, I have nothing else to say at this point, unlike the previous videos that I've done, so let's just go ahead and jump straight into it. Our story begins this time in about October or November of 2017, so this is so far the oldest story. About that time, November of 2017, I visited Paris, and I had a really good time. It was a lot of fun. I saw the Eiffel Tower and everything like that. And obviously, I also went to Disneyland, and I posted the Disneyland ticket on my Instagram story. Now, the thing about me at the time was I had a job, and I was able to afford the Disneyland ticket. And this one person responds to my story. Let's call her Grace. Unlike last time, I came prepared with nicknames. So Grace responds to my story, and she's like, where'd you get this ticket? And I'm like, I bought it. And she was like, oh, okay, I thought you won it in some kind of competition. And that really confused me. But I was like, okay. And eventually, a month or so later, we started talking a little bit more, and I seemed to accidentally caught feelings for her at the time. And I started talking to her more and more. And eventually, we went out one time, but she brought a friend, and it, you know, at the time I didn't really have a lot of experience, so I couldn't tell if what she was doing was showing signs or not. And, you know, I decided to try my hand. You know, what's the worst that can happen? So one time I was out with my friends. This was the beginning of 2018. It was I was still on my winter break at the time. And I was messaging her while I was out with my friends because they were doing something else at the time. I don't remember exactly what. And she, out of nowhere, tells me that it's been a really long time since she had been to the movie theater. And I saw this as an opportunity, and I said, well, so have I. Do you want to go? And she was like, yeah, sure, let's do that. And I was like, all right, we're on to something here. So we looked at what was in the movies at the time, and we decided on Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, hence the name of this video. And that was the end of that till the next day. I was at the auto parts store, I believe. I don't exactly recall where I was or what I was doing at the time, but I was speaking to her, and she tells me, she begins listing all her friends that she plans to invite with us at the theater. And then adds that, well, all of them can't come. So logic tells me I should ask what I wanted to ask. And I ask her, why don't we go on our own, just me and you? And she says, oh, no, I can't do that. And I'm like, why? And she was like, because a certain person is going to get upset. And at this point, I start, boiling like Dexter in Dexter's Laboratory does. And I was like, who's that person? And she was like, my ex. We're getting back together soon. And I went into complete tilt mode. I started raging. I got angry because this was the time when I didn't really wasn't really good at reacting to situations like this. So I was like, why did this have to happen? I got upset, and I got so upset and so lost in my thoughts that I confessed to her that I liked her, and she was like, oh yeah, I could totally notice that. And I was like, great. So later that day, she informs me that only one friend is going to be coming with us. Let's call her Katie, not to be confused with Kate from Storytime episode 1. This is a different person. And I was like, what else do I say? I said, okay. So the day when we were supposed to go, I opened the theater website, and it says that the screening begins in 8:15 p.m. And I said to her, be in front of the theater at around 7:45 to 8 p.m. And she was like, okay, cool. So I'm waiting in front of the theater. It was, well, actually the mall, because the theater is inside a mall. And I'm waiting outside the mall, and I meet up with a couple of my friends. And they went in, they were going for clothes or some shit. And I see that it's 8:06 p.m. and they still hadn't showed up. So I call Grace on the phone, and I'm like, guys, the movie starts in 9 minutes. Where are you? And she said, "Oh no, the movie starts at 8:30." And I'm like, "What? I told you it starts at 8:15." And she said, "No, you said 8:30." And I'm like, "Great." I was like, "Okay, it's fine. We'll catch the next screening. The next screening is at 9:30." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So when they arrived, they called me back and they said, "Hey, we're in front of, don't remember which clothing store it was, but we're there. Go inside. We'll meet up." And I go inside and well, let me tell you, I'm not exactly a fan of the fact that she brought her friend, and I'm not exactly a fan of her friend either. I won't go into details why, but you've probably had experiences with your crush's extremely annoying friend that knocked over at least 3 items in every clothing store we went into, because yes, unbelievably, because there was an hour and 15 minutes left till the movie started, we had to go inside clothing stores and they had to look at clothes. So anyway, the theater was in front of the food court, not in front, but on the same floor as the food court. So first we went to the food court. No, actually, excuse me. We bought the tickets and then we went to the food court. And they let me keep the tickets because I had bigger pockets. That's not a flex. I just had bigger pockets. That my coat was like that. So I put the tickets in my jacket, and Grace here got something to eat. And then I discovered that her friend, Katie, she believed that the clothing brand Supreme is actually pronounced Supreme, but never mind, we'll gloss over that. That's the least of her problems, to be honest with you. After we were done with the food, we headed to the theater, and I pulled out the tickets, and I look at the seat numbers, and it said 6, 7, and 8. So I take seat number 8 for myself, I give seat number 7 to Grace, and I give seat number 6 to Katie. So we get in line at the theater, and Katie asks Grace, "What seat are you?" And Grace responds, "Seat 6." And I'm like, "No!" And yes, her friend sat next to me, and I could not watch the movie because she would not stop talking. Every 4 or 5 minutes, she would have a comment to make about the movie, and she did it loudly. And everyone who knows the story, my real life friends, they're like, "Why didn't you just get up and leave?" And I was like, didn't want to waste the money I spent on the ticket. But if I am faced with the same situation now, you better believe I'm gonna get up from the movie and leave the damn theater. So after the movie was done, the movie was actually really good, but I could barely enjoy it because of Katie. Why did I think of such a similar nickname? Now people are gonna get confused. So after the movie was finished, I saw that my friends were calling me on the phone, and I called them back, and they're like, "Hey bro, what happened? Did she dump you?" And I'm like, "Don't ask. Just don't ask, please." And eventually they left, so I left as well, and I joined my friends after that. And a few days later, the night before I was supposed to start school, me and Grace were texting, and we got into like this extremely deep conversation. She mentions her ex again, says that she's supposed to get back together with him, and I completely lost my crap. I could not sleep that night at all, and I went to school miserable. But unlike the previous two, well, I say the previous two, the first one didn't have a happy ending, the second one didn't. This one has a happy ending as well. You want to know why? Because eventually Grace did get back together with her ex, who I later discovered that he messed her up once already, and when she got back with him, he messed her up again. That about wraps up episode 3 of Korr Storytime. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit like and subscribe to my channel. Also, follow me on Twitter and on Twitch. I will provide links in the description. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!